My wife looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You smell like grease. You're an embarrassment to me." 24 hours later, I owned the building she worked in. This is the true story of how I went from serving tacos on the street corner to becoming a billionaire overnight. But here's the thing, the money didn't change me. It just revealed who everyone around me really was. And what I discovered broke my heart. My name is Daniel Cooper, and this is my story. If you've ever been looked down on, ever been told you're not good enough, ever been treated like you're worthless, this one's for you. Because sometimes the people who judge you the most are the ones who end up begging for your forgiveness. Stay with me. You won't believe what happens next. Welcome to the Voice of Reality. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. You know, sometimes life has a funny way of showing you who people really are. Let me tell you about Daniel Cooper, a man who spent his days running a small taco truck in downtown Seattle. Every morning before sunrise, Daniel would fire up his grill, prep his ingredients, and serve the best street tacos you'd ever taste. He wasn't rich, but he had pride in his work. He had dignity. Daniel had been married to his wife Rebecca for over 30 years. She was the CEO of Harrison Industries, a successful tech consulting company worth millions. In the beginning, they were happy. But as Rebecca's career took off, something changed. The woman who once smiled at him over morning coffee now looked at him with something close to disgust. She stopped introducing him at company events. She made excuses why he couldn't attend her business dinners. "You smell like grease," she'd say, wrinkling her nose when he came home. "Can't you find a real job? Something respectable?" Daniel tried to explain that his food truck was honest work, that he took pride in feeding people, in making them smile with a good meal. But Rebecca didn't want to hear it. To her, he was an embarrassment, a stain on her carefully crafted image. Rebecca's family was even worse. Her mother, Patricia, treated Daniel like he was invisible. Her younger brother, Kyle, was a gambling addict who constantly needed money. And guess who paid off Kyle's debts every single time? Daniel. He drained his savings, worked double shifts, all to keep the peace in a family that never respected him. One evening, everything came crashing down. Daniel was closing up his truck when a sleek black car pulled up. Out stepped a woman in an expensive suit. Her name was Victoria Knight, and she had a story that would change Daniel's life forever. "Mr. Cooper," she said, extending her hand. "I've been looking for you. I represent your late uncle, James Cooper. Perhaps you've heard of him?" Daniel shook his head, confused. He barely remembered his uncle, a man who'd left Seattle decades ago to pursue business ventures. Victoria smiled gently. "Your uncle became one of the wealthiest real estate developers in America. He owned properties from New York to Los Angeles. And he recently passed away. According to his will, you are his sole heir." Daniel stared at her, convinced this was some kind of scam. "Lady, I think you've got the wrong guy. I sell tacos for a living." "I understand your skepticism," Victoria said, pulling out a black credit card. "This card has $15 billion on it. Your uncle left it for you. If you don't believe me, go to any bank and check the balance yourself." She pressed the card into his hand along with her business card. "When you're ready to talk, call me." "Oh, and your uncle also left you controlling interest in Skyline Enterprises, the largest commercial real estate company on the West Coast, worth about $150 billion. It's all yours now, Mr. Cooper." And just like that, she was gone, leaving Daniel standing there with a card that felt like it was burning a hole in his palm. That night, Daniel went home to find Rebecca waiting for him with divorce papers. But she wasn't alone. Standing beside her was Lawrence Bradford, the wealthy CEO of Bradford Development Corporation. "Daniel, we need to talk," Rebecca said coldly. "I'm filing for divorce." Daniel's heart sank, even though part of him had seen this coming. "Why now?" Lawrence stepped forward with a smug smile. "Because Rebecca deserves better than a taco vendor. She deserves someone who can match her success, her ambition. Someone like me. I'm prepared to invest $10 million in her company once she's free of you." Rebecca looked at Daniel with such contempt. "We're not in the same world anymore, Daniel. I'm running a multi-million-dollar company, And you're flipping tortillas in a food truck. You're no help to me. You're actually holding me back. You embarrass me. Fine, Daniel said quietly, his voice steady despite the pain. Let's get divorced then. Rebecca blinked, surprised at how easily he agreed. Good. Then you won't mind that the house and the car are mine. You can take your clothes and leave tonight. Are those really yours, though? Daniel asked. Every paycheck I ever earned went into your family's pockets. Your mother's bills, your brother's gambling debts. When did your family ever give me a single cent? That's different, Rebecca snapped. You were my husband. It was your duty to support my family. Daniel felt something break inside him. 30 years of his life, wasted on people who never loved him, never respected him. I'll leave, he said. But mark my words, Rebecca. You're going to regret this. Rebecca laughed, a cruel sound. Regret leaving you? A taco truck owner? That'll be the day. As Daniel packed his things, Patricia and Kyle showed up to make sure he left quickly. They mocked him, pushed him toward the door, told him never to come back. Kyle even threatened to call the police if Daniel didn't leave immediately. Good riddance, Kyle shouted as Daniel walked out into the night. If you ever amount to anything, I'll eat my hat. Daniel stood on the street, a single duffel bag in his hand, and pulled out the black card Victoria had given him. Could it really be true? There was only one way to find out. Tomorrow, he'd go to the bank. Tomorrow, everything would change. The next morning, Daniel walked into First National Bank with the black card in his pocket. He felt out of place in his worn jeans and faded jacket, but he was determined to find out the truth. The bank was busy, full of well-dressed people conducting their business. Daniel approached a teller named Sarah, who looked him up and down with barely concealed disgust. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone suggesting she'd rather be anywhere else. "I'd like to check my account balance," Daniel said, sliding the card across the counter. Sarah picked it up, and her eyes widened. Is this a supreme black card? Before Daniel could answer, a familiar voice cut through the air. "Daniel? What are you doing here?" It was his ex-wife Rebecca, standing in line with Lawrence. She looked mortified to see him. "Oh my God," Rebecca said loudly. "Are you here to cause a scene? Is this because I divorced you? Daniel, you need to move on." Lawrence smirked. "Buddy, if you're here trying to take out a small business loan or something, this really isn't the place for you. Maybe try a credit union." Sarah held up the black card. "Sir, I need to verify this card. Only people with deposits of $15 billion or more can have a supreme black card, and frankly..." She looked at Daniel's clothes. "This has to be fake." "Then verify it," Daniel said calmly. Sarah took the card to her supervisor. Moments later, the supervisor rushed over with a phone, his face pale. "Mr. Cooper," he stammered. "We need to confirm. May I call the number on your account?" "Go ahead," Daniel said. The supervisor dialed, and Daniel could hear Victoria Knight's voice come through the speaker, loud and clear. "This is Victoria Knight, legal representative of the Cooper estate. Is there a problem with Mr. Cooper's account?" "No, ma'am," the supervisor said quickly. "We just needed to verify." "The supreme black card is genuine," Victoria interrupted. "Mr. Cooper is the primary account holder. $15 billion in liquid assets, plus controlling shares in Skyline Enterprises. Is there anything else?" The supervisor hung up, his hands shaking. He turned to Daniel and bowed slightly. "Mr. Cooper, I apologize for any inconvenience. Please, let me personally handle your account." Rebecca's face had gone white. $15 billion? That's impossible. "Daniel, you're a taco vendor." "Was a taco vendor," Daniel corrected. "Turns out my Uncle James had more money than he knew what to do with. And he left it all to me." Lawrence grabbed Rebecca's arm. "This has to be a trick. Some kind of scam." But Sarah, who'd been listening to the whole conversation, pulled up Daniel's account on her screen. Her jaw dropped. "The balance is... I can't even count the zeros." Victoria Knight walked into the bank at that moment, looking as polished as ever. "Mr. Cooper, I apologize for the confusion. I should have prepared the bank for your arrival." She turned to Rebecca and Lawrence with a cold smile. I'm Victoria Knight, Chief Legal Counsel for Skyline Enterprises. As of yesterday, Mr. Cooper assumed control of the company. He is now one of the wealthiest men in America. Rebecca grabbed Daniel's arm. Daniel, wait.
We need to talk about this.
We're still married, technically. The divorce isn't finalized. Daniel pulled his arm away. You made it very clear how you felt about me, Rebecca. You said I was an embarrassment, that I was holding you back. I was upset, Rebecca said quickly, her voice taking on a desperate edge. I didn't mean those things. Daniel, we've been together for 30 years. Think about everything we've built together. What did we build? Daniel asked quietly. I worked myself to the bone while you and your family bled me dry. Your brother's gambling debts, your mother's expenses. I paid for everything, and you treated me like garbage. Lawrence stepped forward, trying to salvage the situation. Look, Daniel, I think we all got off on the wrong foot. Why don't we save it? Daniel said. Rebecca wanted a divorce, so let's give her one. Victoria, please handle the paperwork. Make sure it's finalized immediately. Daniel, please. Rebecca begged. Don't do this. Think about our son, Ethan. He needs his father. Daniel's expression softened for just a moment. Ethan is always welcome in my life. But you, Rebecca? You made your choice. You chose money over love, status over loyalty. Well, now I have more money than you ever dreamed of, and you're not getting a penny of it. As Daniel walked out of the bank with Victoria, he could hear Rebecca crying behind him. But he didn't look back. For the first time in 30 years, he felt free. Victoria led him to a luxury car waiting outside. Mr. Cooper, I've prepared a full briefing on Skyline Enterprises. You have properties in every major city, commercial developments worth billions. Your uncle was very specific in his will that you should take over the company. Why me? Daniel asked. He barely knew me. Your uncle admired you, Victoria said softly. He kept tabs on you over the years. He saw how hard you worked, how you maintained your dignity even when others tried to tear you down. He said you were the only family member who understood the value of honest work. Daniel felt tears prick his eyes. Someone had seen him, really seen him, not as an embarrassment or a failure, but as a man of worth. There's a board meeting in 3 days, Victoria continued. We'll announce your position as chairman. Every major business leader in Seattle will be there, including, I believe, your ex-wife and her new boyfriend. Daniel smiled. Good. Let them see who they threw away. 3 days later, Daniel stood outside the Skyline Enterprises headquarters, a gleaming tower in downtown Seattle. He'd bought himself a simple but elegant suit, nothing too flashy. He didn't need to show off. The building itself said everything that needed to be said. Inside, the lobby was packed with Seattle's elite. CEOs, investors, developers. Everyone wanted to meet the mysterious new chairman of Skyline Enterprises. Daniel recognized several faces from Rebecca's business dinners, people who'd looked right through him when he was just the taco vendor husband. Victoria appeared at his side. Ready, Mr. Cooper? As ready as I'll ever be, Daniel said. They made their way to the elevator, and Daniel spotted Rebecca and Lawrence near the front desk. Rebecca was dressed in her most expensive outfit, clearly trying to make an impression. When she saw Daniel, her eyes widened. Daniel, she called out. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, Daniel replied. Lawrence puffed out his chest. We're here because Rebecca's company was invited to discuss a potential partnership with Skyline Enterprises. This is a very exclusive event. I'm surprised they let you in. Before Daniel could respond, a security guard approached. Excuse me, sir. You can't block the chairman's path. Lawrence moved aside smugly. See? Even the security knows this isn't a place for. I was talking to you, the guard said to Lawrence. Mr. Cooper is the chairman. Please step aside. The color drained from Lawrence's face. Rebecca grabbed Daniel's arm. Daniel, that's not funny. Stop playing games. Victoria stepped forward. Mr. Cooper owns this building, along with 247 others across the country. He is the chairman of Skyline Enterprises. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have a board meeting to attend. As they walked toward the elevator, Daniel could hear the whispers spreading through the lobby like wildfire. The taco vendor was actually a billionaire. The man Rebecca threw away was one of the richest people in America. The board meeting was held in a massive conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seattle. The room fell silent as Daniel entered. He took his seat at the head of the table, with Victoria standing beside him. "Ladies and gentlemen," Victoria announced, "I'm pleased to introduce Daniel Cooper, the new chairman of Skyline Enterprises and sole heir to the Cooper fortune." There was polite applause, but Daniel could see the shock on many faces. Some of these people knew him from his food truck days. They'd eaten his tacos and tipped him spare change, never imagining he'd end up as their boss. "Thank you all for coming," Daniel said, his voice steady and confident. "I know my appointment comes as a surprise to many of you. I'm not a traditional businessman. Until last week, I ran a taco truck. But my uncle saw something in me that I'm only beginning to understand myself. He believed that success isn't measured by what you have, but by how you treat people along the way." He paused, letting his words sink in. Moving forward, Skyline Enterprises will be guided by 3 principles: integrity, respect, and fairness. We will not do business with anyone who lacks these qualities, regardless of their wealth or connections. A hand shot up. It was Jonathan Hayes, CEO of Hayes Property Group and one of Rebecca's biggest clients. "Mr. Cooper, with all due respect, business is about profit, not feelings. Your uncle understood that." "My uncle also understood loyalty," Daniel countered. "He built this empire by keeping his word and treating people right. That's what made him successful, not stepping on others to get ahead." The meeting continued with discussions of ongoing projects and new developments. Daniel was impressed by Victoria's preparation. She'd briefed him on every detail, every contract, every deal. He might be new to this world, but he wasn't unprepared. Near the end of the meeting, Victoria stood up. "There's one more matter to address. We've been reviewing all of Skyline's current partnerships. Any company that has shown a pattern of unethical behavior or exploitation will have their contracts terminated immediately." She pulled up a presentation on the screen. This includes Bradford Development Corporation, which has been cited multiple times for labor violations and fraud. Effective immediately, all partnerships with Bradford Development are dissolved. Lawrence jumped to his feet. "You can't do that. We have contracts worth millions." "Had contracts," Daniel corrected. "My company doesn't do business with people who exploit workers and cut corners on safety." "You're done, Lawrence." Lawrence's face turned red with rage. "This is because of Rebecca, isn't it? You're using your power to get revenge on me." "This has nothing to do with Rebecca," Daniel said calmly. "This is about your company's documented violations. The fact that you tried to steal my wife is just a bonus reason to not want you around." Rebecca stood up, tears streaming down her face. "Daniel, please. Don't do this to Lawrence because of me. If you're angry, punish me, not him." Daniel looked at her, and for a moment, he felt sorry for her. But then he remembered all the years of disrespect, all the times she'd made him feel worthless. "Rebecca, this isn't punishment. This is business. Lawrence's company failed on its own merits. And as for you..."
He paused.
"Harrison Industries will not be considered for any partnerships with Skyline Enterprises. Not because I hate you, but because I can't trust you. Trust is the foundation of business, and you proved you don't know the meaning of the word." "But Daniel," Rebecca sobbed. "Our son, Ethan. He's starting college soon. How will we afford?" "Ethan is my son," Daniel interrupted. "I'll make sure he has everything he needs. I'll pay for his education, his expenses, everything. But you, Rebecca? You're on your own. You wanted to be independent, to be with someone who matched your ambition. Well, congratulations. You got exactly what you wanted." As the meeting ended, people swarmed around Daniel, suddenly eager to shake his hand and exchange business cards. The same people who'd ignored him for years now treated him like royalty. But Daniel wasn't interested in their fake friendship. He had one goal now: to build a life that honored his uncle's legacy and to be the father his son deserved. 2 weeks after the board meeting, Daniel stood outside Riverside Preparatory Academy, one of the most prestigious private schools in Seattle. His daughter, Sophie, was with him. Yes, daughter, something Rebecca had conveniently forgotten to mention during the divorce. Sophie was 7 years old, bright as sunshine, and the center of Daniel's world. After the divorce was finalized, Daniel had fought for and won custody of Sophie. Rebecca had been too focused on her career and relationship with Lawrence to put up much of a fight. It broke Daniel's heart, but it also gave him the chance to be the father he'd always wanted to be. "Daddy," Sophie said, tugging his hand. "Do I really have to go to this school? It looks scary." Daniel knelt down to her level. "I know it's different from your old school, sweetheart. But this school has the best teachers, the best programs. You'll make friends, I promise." "What if the kids don't like me?" Sophie asked, her big eyes worried. "Then they're not very smart kids," Daniel said, kissing her forehead. "You're kind, you're funny, and you're the smartest 7-year-old I know. Anyone would be lucky to be your friend." They walked into the school's administrative building, and Daniel immediately noticed the opulence. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, oil paintings on the walls. This was a school for the children of the wealthy and powerful. A receptionist greeted them with a bright smile. "Welcome to Riverside Prep. Are you here for a tour?" "I'm here to enroll my daughter," Daniel said. "Sophie Cooper." The receptionist typed into her computer, then frowned. "I'm sorry, but I don't see any application on file for Sophie Cooper. Did you submit the paperwork?" "I called last week and was told to come in today," Daniel explained. "Let me get the admissions director," the receptionist said, disappearing into a back office. While they waited, Sophie wandered over to a couch and sat down. Daniel watched her swing her little legs, still too short to touch the ground. She was wearing her favorite dress, the one with butterflies on it. He'd braided her hair himself that morning, not perfectly, but with love. A woman emerged from the office, her expression cold and professional. "I'm Director Helen Morrison. I understand there's been some confusion." "No confusion," Daniel said. "I called to enroll my daughter. You said to come in today with her paperwork." Helen looked at Sophie, then back at Daniel. Her nose wrinkled slightly. "Mr. Cooper, Riverside Prep is a very exclusive institution. Our tuition is $75,000 per year, and we have a rigorous application process. We don't just accept anyone." "I understand," Daniel said patiently. "I have the tuition check right here, and Sophie's transcripts from her previous school. She's an excellent student." Helen barely glanced at the papers. "It's not just about grades, Mr. Cooper. It's about fit. Our students come from prominent families. Their parents are CEOs, politicians, doctors. What do you do for a living?" Before Daniel could answer, a familiar voice cut through the air. "Daniel? What are you doing here?" It was Jessica Hartford, one of Rebecca's old friends, and a member of the school's board of directors. Behind her was her son, Tyler, a spoiled 10-year-old who was notorious for bullying. "I'm enrolling my daughter," Daniel said simply. Jessica looked at Sophie with barely concealed disdain. "Riverside Prep might not be the right fit for your family, Daniel. This school caters to a certain caliber of student." "Sophie is more than qualified," Daniel said, his patience wearing thin. "It's not about qualifications," Jessica said. "It's about whether she'll fit in with our community. Let's be honest, Daniel. You're a food truck owner. The other children's parents are millionaires. Do you really want Sophie to feel out of place?" Sophie tugged on Daniel's sleeve. "Daddy, can we just go? I don't want to go to this school." But before Daniel could respond, Tyler Hartford walked over and pushed Sophie off the couch. "This seat is for students, not poor kids." Sophie fell hard, scraping her knee on the marble floor. She started crying, and Daniel saw red. He scooped Sophie up and turned to Jessica. "Your son just assaulted my daughter, and you're standing there doing nothing?" Jessica shrugged. "Boys will be boys. Maybe this is a sign that Riverside isn't the right place for you." Daniel took a deep breath, trying to control his anger. Then he pulled out his phone and called Victoria. "Victoria, I'm at Riverside Preparatory Academy. I need you to pull up everything we have on the school." On speakerphone, Victoria's voice was crisp and professional. "Riverside Prep. Skyline Enterprises owns the land the school is built on. They lease it from us for $2 million a year. Why do you ask? Jessica's face went pale. Wait, you own? I want the lease terminated, Daniel said. Effective immediately. Daniel, wait, Helen stammered. Let's not be hasty. I'm sure we can work something out. You had your chance to work something out, Daniel said. You discriminated against my daughter because you assumed we were poor. You allowed a student to assault her and did nothing. This school doesn't deserve to operate on my property. Victoria's voice came through the phone again. Consider it done, Mr. Cooper. The lease termination notice will be delivered within the hour. They have 30 days to vacate the premises. Jessica grabbed Daniel's arm. You can't do this. Do you have any idea how many important people send their children here? I don't care, Daniel said. My daughter is important to me, and you treated her like garbage. Actions have consequences, Jessica. Maybe you should have thought of that before you let your son bully mine. He turned to Helen. And you, Director Morrison. You're supposed to protect all children, not just the ones whose parents can afford to donate to your building fund. You failed at your job. As Daniel carried Sophie out of the building, he could hear Helen and Jessica frantically making phone calls, trying to salvage the situation. But it was too late. Outside, Daniel set Sophie down and wiped her tears. I'm sorry, sweetheart. But don't worry. We'll find you a school where people are kind. Sophie hugged him tight. You're the best daddy in the whole world. And in that moment, Daniel knew that all the money in the world couldn't compare to hearing those words. 6 months had passed since Daniel's life had turned upside down. Sophie was thriving at her new school, a warm and welcoming place where she'd made dozens of friends. Daniel had settled into his role as chairman of Skyline Enterprises, using his wealth to fund affordable housing projects and help small business owners get their start. He'd never forgotten where he came from. In fact, he'd bought back his old taco truck and parked it outside the Skyline headquarters once a month, serving free tacos to anyone who wanted them. It reminded him to stay humble, to stay grounded. Today was special, though. Today was the grand opening of Cooper Community Center, a massive facility Daniel had built in one of Seattle's poorest neighborhoods. It had job training programs, childcare services, a food bank, and educational resources. Daniel had poured $50 million into the project, and he never felt prouder. As he stood on the stage, looking out at the crowd of community members, he saw familiar faces. His son Ethan was there, having reconciled with Daniel after learning the truth about what happened. Ethan had started college and was studying social work, inspired by his father's generosity. Victoria stood beside Daniel, as always. Over the months, they'd become close friends. She taught him the ins and outs of business, and he'd reminded her why she'd gotten into law in the first place, to help people. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel said into the microphone. 6 months ago, I was serving tacos from a food truck. Today, I stand before you as one of the wealthiest men in America. But I didn't earn this money. I inherited it from an uncle who saw potential in me when no one else did. The crowd was silent, hanging on his every word. My uncle taught me that wealth is a responsibility, not a privilege. It's not about how much you have, but what you do with it. This community center represents my commitment to giving back, to helping others the way I wish someone had helped me when I was struggling. He paused, emotion thick in his throat. I know what it's like to be looked down on, to be treated as less than human because of your job or your bank account. I know what it's like to work yourself to the bone and still be called worthless. No one should ever feel that way. Applause erupted from the crowd, genuine and heartfelt. After the ceremony, Daniel was talking with community leaders when he saw a familiar figure approaching. It was Rebecca, looking tired and much older than the last time he'd seen her. Hello, Daniel, she said quietly. Rebecca, Daniel acknowledged. What brings you here? I heard about the community center, she said. It's incredible what you've done. I wanted to see it for myself. They walked together through the facility, not saying much at first. Finally, Rebecca broke the silence. I was wrong about you, she said. About everything. I thought success meant money and status. I thought marrying Lawrence would make me happy. But I've never been more miserable. What happened? Daniel asked despite himself. Lawrence's company went bankrupt after you terminated our contracts, Rebecca said. He blamed me for the divorce, said if I'd just stayed with you, everything would have been fine. Then he left me for someone younger, someone who could help his career. Daniel didn't feel the satisfaction he thought he would. He just felt sad for her. My company is struggling too, Rebecca continued. Without Skyline's partnership, a lot of our clients lost confidence. I'm barely keeping things afloat. I'm sorry to hear that, Daniel said, and he meant it. Rebecca looked at him with tears in her eyes. I don't deserve your sympathy. I treated you horribly for years. I made you feel worthless. And the worst part is, I convinced myself I was justified because you weren't successful in the way I defined it. Rebecca. Let me finish, she said. I was so focused on climbing the social ladder that I forgot what really mattered.
Family. Love.
Respect. You gave me all of that and I threw it away. I threw you away. Daniel looked at her, this woman he'd spent 30 years with, and felt nothing but pity. You know what the saddest part is, Rebecca? I would have given you everything even without the money. I loved you. I would have worked 3 jobs, sold my truck, done whatever it took to make you happy. But it was never enough because you didn't value me as a person. I know, Rebecca whispered, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. They stood there in silence for a moment. Then Rebecca asked, Do you think you could ever forgive me? Daniel thought about it. He thought about all the pain, all the humiliation, all the years of being treated like he was nothing. But he also thought about Sophie, about Ethan, about the life he was building now. I forgive you, Rebecca, he said finally. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I'm not going to carry around anger and resentment. That's not who I want to be. Rebecca nodded, tears streaming down her face. Thank you. And Daniel? For what it's worth, Sophie talks about you constantly. She loves you so much. You're an amazing father. I try, Daniel said. That's all any of us can do. As Rebecca left, Daniel felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He'd spent so long seeking validation from people who would never give it. But now he realized he didn't need their approval. He had his children, his work, and his purpose. Victoria appeared at his side. You okay, boss? Daniel smiled. Yeah, I am. For the first time in a long time, I really am. That evening, Daniel took Sophie out for ice cream, just the two of them. She chattered about her day, about her friends, about the book she was reading. And Daniel listened, really listened, grateful for every moment. Daddy, Sophie said, chocolate ice cream smeared on her face. Are we rich now? Daniel thought about how to answer. We have money, yes. But that's not what makes us rich, sweetheart. Then what does? Sophie asked. Daniel tapped her heart gently.
This.
Being kind. Helping people. Having people who love us. That's real wealth. Sophie nodded seriously. Then we were always rich, weren't we? Even when you had the taco truck. Daniel felt tears prick his eyes. Yes, Sophie. We were always rich. I just didn't see it until now. As they walked home under the Seattle stars, hand in hand, Daniel realized that his uncle's greatest gift wasn't the money. It was the opportunity to become the man he was always meant to be, a man who lifted others up instead of tearing them down, a man who measured success by how many people he helped rather than how much he had. And that, Daniel knew, was worth more than all the billions in the world. The end. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to remember that true value isn't measured by wealth or status, but by perseverance, humility, and love. The man who once sold tacos and was resented became rich overnight, but what truly mattered was the character he never lost and the kindness that carried him through. Thank you for listening, and may you always recognize the priceless people and values in your life, long before success arrives.